with me starting like almost a decade ago, they were really, really ruthless. Like if you did not answer the phone with Yemaseyo, like the native Korean language, they would literally hang up on you.
The myth is she just stalling so she could charge you. No, I'm trying to keep your hair on your head.
If I have to turn my head like this to read your packaging, I'm not gonna buy it.
When you come in, stop coming in and telling us how much to sell our stuff for.
Everyone says their hair is 4C because they're affiliated with difficulty.
The U.S. has terrible regulations for cosmetics. Black women historically have these issues with fibroids and uterine problems, and we're trusting you, and now you're putting chemicals in it?
We decided to create a show that would give consumers that behind the scenes of what Black-owned beauty supply store owners go through, what Black-owned brands, Black-owned salons go through, to have a conversation with experts in the field, helping Black entrepreneurs break into the beauty supply industry. Let's jump into the world of Black beauty. My name is Janice Fredericks-Spell, the retail genius. I am the host, and I'm here with my beautiful guest, Melody Bockelman. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Janice. I love being here.
Yes, so one thing that I want to discuss today is the fact that many people in our community feel like betrayed when a company sells, yes, or when a company sells to a big corporation, they're considered a sellout. It's this whole conversation around why would they do this, and people feel betrayed when a Black-owned brand sells to a big corporation. Let's start there with how do you see it? Do you see it as selling out?
Well, I totally understand a consumer's perspective, especially if they've been a die-hard loyal. I've supported that brand from the moment. Let's talk about Carol's daughter. She was in her kitchen,
right,
all the way
started
through.
From the bottom.
Started from the bottom. I was there. I watched her go. I support her when she was on QVC, HSN, Target, and then she sold, right? So it definitely feels like, oh, our journey's ending together.
Right.
But from a brand founder's position, a lot of times multiple things happen. One, I believe that you should build a brand to sell. That's how real wealth is made.
Wow.
You're building an asset. It's almost the equivalent of real estate.
For someone watching, right, and I want to stop right there so that they can hear your perspective on it. For someone watching and they have the hopes of like building generational wealth, and they feel like this is the brand that's going to be passed down from generation to generation, like Soft Sheen Carson. But you're saying that the purpose is to sell.
Right. There's multiple ways to create generational wealth, and it doesn't have to be, this brand can be a vehicle. Maybe your family can go and buy land somewhere. Maybe
right.
You can buy 300 rental properties with that money. Like, you have to shift your mindset a little bit, I believe, on like building a brand. That brand is a tool to get you to that next level.
So what about the people who feel like, why can't they just figure out a way to scale and grow into all of these stores without selling? Like, why sell your brand? Because I feel like the biggest thing after they sell is that the ingredients change, and it's watered down, and it's not the same product.
Right. And that's true, right? A lot of times what we don't see behind the scenes as a consumer is the late nights, the stress of making payroll,
right,
the cost of scaling a business. Sometimes running a brand, even a multi-million-dollar brand, is absolutely exhausting. And sometimes life happens and they need to make that change. And it's unfortunate for brands, but I have brand owners, Native Deodorant, we help them get started. He was making $1 million a month, and he said, I was keeping that brand together with Band-Aids. Wow. And so as a consumer, we see it on the shelves and we just assume they're making a ton of money, but behind the scenes they're struggling, or they're ready for something new in their life. So I don't know. I think I understand the consumer's perspective, but I think you've got to take a little bigger picture of it and see that maybe there's other factors at play. And yes, of course, when you change ownership, it's like buying a new house. You're going to decorate your kitchen different than the way I decorate my kitchen. Or maybe their supply chain changes, or they bring their manufacturing in-house or to their current suppliers, so they have to make formula adjustments. And unfortunately, that happens even when a brand has to contains ownership of a brand.
So for the person who is listening to you right now, they may be thinking, so why even support from the start? What is the point if you eventually are going to just sell your company to the white man? Why even start?
Okay, well, and I think that inherently has the question in it is like, just if they sell, are they still going to be doing good in the community, right? Because maybe with their intention of selling, they're going to go open a school in their local businesses. Maybe that money is still actually being applied and doing well in the community and still going back to us just in different ways. So I think looking at that question with a different eye is really helpful, right? But so why support? Because they're still struggling entrepreneurs for 1 to 10 years. How long was Soft and Sheen a Black-owned brand? 40 years?
Yeah.
40 years, right? Maybe their kids didn't want their business.
Right.
Maybe nobody was able to take care of it the same way. So sometimes the best thing you can do is sell, and it's not always feasible to keep it in-house.
Can you speak to some examples that we have seen that have sold and they may have gone into more positive ventures to actually impact our community?
Great example is Shea Moisture.
Right.
Sold the brand, made a lot of money, and bought Essence with that money.
Right.
So was he bad for selling? He kept that money back in the community. He still funds a lot of small brands that are starting up. He's absolutely giving back. So I think just expanding our thought around, this is the only way and it has to be this way or you're a sellout is just a limited concept, really.
Right. Do you think it's easier for a brand to sell now than it was 10, 15 years ago?
Absolutely. And not only is it easier, what's cool about beauty is that it has a multiplier of 3 to 4. So if your revenue is at $1 million, you can sell it 3 to 4 times that. So it has a lot of value as well. When you sell a brand, you don't just sell, your formulations. You sell your assets, your email list, your client mailing, all of those things. So it's actually a lot easier because the name of the game is acquisition for a lot of brands and a lot of companies.
So in your mind, does a brand have to sell? Like, what are the other options to scaling without selling your entire corporation?
So, yeah, and you don't have to sell, but what you do have to do is from day one, build your brand like a company. You have to, in your head, even if you're the one formulating, packing, shipping, fulfilling, emailing, customer service, you have to be filling out and making structure in your company that, other employees can come in and step into those roles so that you can step back as CEO and eventually hire a CEO. And then you just own that business as an asset. So either way, you've got to be prepared to run a real company.
I love that. And I would love to go deeper. So for someone who is watching right now, who is a brand new brand owner, like, what are some of the other things that they can do to actually run their company as a corporation?
Well, the first thing is making sure your tax status is right, making sure that you are not just a sole proprietor, selling at vendor markets. Maybe it feels like a really long time from now that you'll actually be able to afford your first employee. But when you're packing your orders at night, or on the weekends, I want you to be writing down the steps and the processes so you're creating
documentation.
What's called, SOP, so that one day when it happens and you can afford to hire someone, you can slide them in nicely. And it may go faster for you than expected. That often happens, especially if a brand goes viral. So sometimes people are, your lovely customers that absolutely adore you, they get their feelings hurt when they think that you have sold out. Recently, Honey Pot had a formula change. She didn't sell her business. She just had a formula change, and people were livid. Instagram influencers dragged her, TikTokers dragged her. They knew she sold out. They would bet it on their mama that she sold out. But the reality is just that she had to change some ingredients. And that really did a lot of damage to her brand. She's still doing cleanup work 6-9 months. She's just releasing PR about how they're a natural company and everything's okay. And a lot of times, when you have your ride or die customers, you've got to be considering them when you're making major decisions and including them in the conversation. And I think that was the biggest lesson that we got from Honey Pot was, hey, before you go and show up on the shelves with a totally new chemically looking ingredient deck, let us know.
Yes.
Let us know. Don't let us find out and then have the internet go wild about
crazy.
it. They went crazy over it. And I understand because those chemicals seem scary to the eye of the consumer.
Yes, and I feel like that was a great learning lesson, especially for new brand owners.
Yes.
Just the piece of communication of just letting us know first before we see it on the internet.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that I don't know the real reason why she made updates, but during the pandemic and even now, supply chain is really rough.
Right.
If a lot of our ingredients come from China, they're still doing random, consistent lockdowns. So sometimes you have to make changes, but it's your brand's responsibility to say, hey, this is what's new and this is why. And it's okay. Just let us know. I think the genuineness, I felt like when she came out, she seemed very robotic. And we just assumed she sold because it was like reading, yes. And I had to make, not her normal bubbly personality that we all love and expect. So
I don't think she was prepared to be attacked the way that she was.
Not at
so I feel like it was just more like a little bit of shock that so many, it was a lot. It was a lot. Mm-hmm. And so many people attacked her before really knowing what the truth was. Yeah. So I think was part of like her response and just feeling a little bit dazed, like just not in touch.
Yeah, because the internet can be mean. Consumers can be mean. And I feel like with her, like, she has a great personality, very lively, very honest, very authentic. And so if she would have come out and just been like, hey, y'all, this is what's really happening and this is why, we wouldn't have dragged her as hard. We wouldn't have dragged her as hard. And here's what happens. If you remember Jaclyn Hill when she came out a couple years ago with that lipstick that had the fibers in it, oh man, people dragged her hard too. And oftentimes when you're the face of the brand, you don't have control over the manufacturing of it. And so sometimes those things are out of your control. And when you launch too soon because you have a launch date or your marketing team is pushing you, then you can get into a lot of trouble. It does permanent damage to your brand.
Wow. Yeah. And I feel like that's something our viewers just don't realize. Right? Is that, you know, sometimes you just have a company that may be behind you, just pushing you to launch something, you know, before you have a chance to really explain to your customers, like, what is going on.
Yep. And I think that brand owners need to keep in mind, like, so the feedback, right, or that B got was, hey, we actually really love you and love your brand. Why would you do this to us? Like, they felt like deep betrayal, like almost like their boyfriend cheated on them betrayal, right?
It was like, that's real.
Yeah, because we're trusting you. Like, Black women historically have these issues with fibroids and uterine problems, and we're trusting you that you're bringing out, a very innovative product for feminine care, and now you're putting chemicals in it? Oh, I'm done. You know, so that was the whole thing. And if she would have got ahead of that and just said, look, listen, I love y'all. This may look chemically on here, but this is what it really is. Because, see, consumers don't understand is that brands have to put the inky name on it, which is like the scientific name. Well, a scientific name of lavender looks scary.
Yes.
And so brand owner or vitamin E looks scary. And so if she would have just simply said, no, this is actually this, but I have to list it like this because that's what the FDA requires.
Right.
Now, her particular product is actually regulated by the FDA because it is a feminine health product. So her standards are a lot more rigorous than like a hair product or a skincare product because it's going inside of your body. And so she needed to her company needed to do a better job of making sure that she communicated those things because her customers felt cheated on.
Well, thank you so much, Melody, for coming on. I think you definitely gave the business owners and consumers something to think about, something to chew on. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
The Convo, your home for conversations on Black entrepreneurship and wealth, available on your favorite platforms.